Imagine a mighty god crashing down on Earth, only to be mistaken for a thief and a mental patient. Welcome to Habeck and Hyeri's story where divinity meets disbelief. The drama begins in a mystical realm where gods reside, the water god Habeck, the sky god, and the earth god, who all govern nature in the human world. Among them, the water god holds the highest authority, yet he has never officially ascended the throne as king, because in order to become king, he must retrieve 3 sacred stones that are currently in the possession of 3 deities living on Earth disguised as humans. His teacher handed over a map to Habeck, along with instructions that a divine servant dwelling on Earth will aid him in this mission. This servant's lineage had been devoted to the gods for centuries, though the present descendant remained blissfully unaware of this duty. Thus, it becomes Habeck's responsibility to remind the servant. Accompanying him is another loyal servant named Nam, who has once before traveled to the human realm. Meanwhile, the female lead of the story, Hyeri, is a psychiatrist, but her clinic hardly ever sees patients. Her only steady companion is her friend, who also works at her clinic and occasionally lends her support. Her income is meager, bills keep piling up, and she dreams of paying off her debts and leaving the country. But of course, she first needs money to escape. She recalls that once in college, a boy had given her a diamond ring. In desperation, she contemplates selling that very ring to clear her debts. As she muses over her grim future, destiny literally crashes down. Habeck falls from the sky. Since it was his very first descent into the human realm, the landing was anything but graceful. He appeared stark naked. With nothing else to wear, he quickly grabbed Hyeri's apron. When he noticed Hyeri unconscious, he returned her apron but gave her a sharp tap on the head to revive her. As Hyeri woke up, she discovered that both her diamond ring and apron were missing. Assuming a thief had robbed her, she furiously shouted threats that she would never forgive the culprit. Being a god, Habeck heard her angry cries from afar and scoffed at her audacity, muttering to himself that this insolent mortal dared call him a thief if only he had clothes on. He would reveal his true identity immediately. Just then, he encountered Nam, who was dressed impeccably in a suit. Unable to resist, Habeck exchanged clothes with him. Yet to his dismay, his divine powers refused to function and, to make matters worse, the sacred map went missing. But Habeck wanted to confront Hyeri, so he declared indignantly that he wasn't stealing, rather, he was borrowing. He proclaimed himself the next emperor, king of water, Habeck. Of course, to any human, such statements sounded delusional, and Hyeri was quick to dismiss him as mentally unstable. She handed him her clinic's card and walked away with her friend. Later, Nam returned and arranged lodging for Habeck, though the matter of food remained. Fortunately, gods do not feel hunger like mortals. Only Nam required sustenance. The next day, as the two strolled through a park, Habeck observed humans carrying peculiar devices and asked what they were. Nam explained that those were mobile phones, useless when it came to food. Seeing his servant's desperate hunger, Habeck decided it was time to summon the divine servant of Earth. What they did not realize was that the very land they stood on belonged to Hyeri, and thus, she was the destined servant of the gods. But Hyeri had already resolved to sell this land. When she saw Habeck there, she asked if he was a potential buyer. With a touch of divine arrogance, Habeck declared that the land was rightfully his because he was a god. Hyeri, irritated, dismissed his claims and stormed off. Her car soon broke down, and in a dramatic twist, Nam pretended to cause an accident, which allowed both him and Habeck to ride along in her vehicle. While inside, Habeck quickly figured out how to drive by simply observing. Trying to drive them to a hospital, Hyeri lost her way and ended up in a dense forest, where the car eventually ran out of fuel. Observing her exhausted state, Habeck showed an uncharacteristic flicker of compassion and sent Nam to fetch fuel. Left alone, he and Hyeri wandered through the forest, only to encounter a massive wild boar. Terrified, Hyeri instinctively grabbed Habeck's hand and bolted. The two hid inside the trunk of her car while the boar attacked outside. After a tense while, things grew quiet, and Nam returned. At this point, Habeck started an argument prompting Hyeri to scold him, saying he clearly didn't know how to drive properly. With a smug grin, he retorted that he had just learned. Hyeri then asked sarcastically whether he even had a license. He puffed out his chest and declared, "I am Habeck, king of the divine world." Her patience snapped, and she ordered him to stop the car immediately. As she stormed off, Habeck reminded her that her ancestors had once served the gods faithfully, and now it was her turn to fulfill that duty. But Hyeri brushed him aside and left. Watching all this, Habeck had reached a point where no other option seemed left to him, and in that desperate moment, he leaned in and kissed Hyeri. Because this is the only way to make her remember her past. But instead of softening, Hyeri shoved him aside and stormed away. Without his powers, Habeck was vulnerable. If he kept acting recklessly around humans, things could turn dangerous. So Nam quickly dragged him away, saving him from arrest. Back at home, Hayeri couldn't remember anything about her past, but she couldn't stop thinking about Habek as he appeared in her thoughts while awake and in her dreams. Meanwhile, Habek remained convinced that sooner or later, her memories of divine duty would resurface. In pursuit of this belief, he set out again to find her. Later, he entered a competition in a bathhouse, hoping to win prize money so he could buy food for Nam. His performance was so astonishing that spectators were left dumbfounded. Coincidentally, Hayeri was present there as well. Spotting Habek, she panicked and tried to escape. Grabbing a skateboard, Habek chased after her with godlike enthusiasm, but she slipped away. Defeated, Habek and Nam returned to their shabby tent, utterly drained. Seeking distraction, they both booked a cab, but Habek confidently told a driver to hand over the car so he could drive it. The diver, clearly regretting his life choices, abandons both Habek and Nam midway and flees, leaving the poor duo stranded. With no choice, they trudge along in search of Hayeri and eventually spot her helping an old man. Habek approaches her confidently, requesting money, a place to stay, and some clothes, adding that if he needed anything else, he would surely let her know. He then declares that together they must locate the other gods residing in the human realm. Unsurprisingly, Hayeri finds none of this logical because she clearly can see that these men are unstable, so instead, advises that they seek psychiatric treatment immediately. According to her, just as physical illnesses require hospitals, mental disturbances do as well, and there was no shame in it. From a distance, Habek retorts that Nam is hungry while he himself is thirsty. Hayeri, unimpressed, tells them both to go home, firmly reminding them that she has not taken up the contract to rescue every lunatic who crosses her path. She warns that if she sees them again, she will report them to the police. Habek feels a pang of sympathy but realizes she truly cannot help them. He and Nam wander aimlessly again until they encounter a man. The man leaps toward Habek and kisses him. Habek immediately throws him off and starts thinking that kissing has become his daily exercise on Earth. But in truth, this man too had originated from Habek's divine realm, but was trapped in the human world because of Habek's earlier misstep. Believing that a kiss would transfer Habek's powers, or at least curse him, he initiated it. But Habek had no powers left to transfer, because apparently, divine kisses come with no warranty. Meanwhile, Hayeri herself is struggling. She doesn't even have enough to pay her rent, so she visits her landlord hoping for some leniency. There, she encounters a man named Shin who also owes money. Yet, seeing Hayeri's miserable condition, Shin kindly waives her debt. On the other side, something unusual happens to Habek, who had never felt hunger suddenly experiences it. Maybe this was the side effect of that man's kiss. Habek then notices a girl's phone, where he glimpses Mura, one of the 3 deities he has been seeking. He immediately follows the girl but instead runs into another servant from his own world. This servant, though once powerful, had lost all his divine abilities and was deeply stressed. Meeting Habek reinvigorates him, and he shows abundant hospitality offering Habek food, which was timely since Habek was now famished. However, this man happened to be one of Hayeri's patients, who had fled her clinic in pursuit of a god. Hayeri, fearing he might act irrationally, chases after him. She arrives just in time to find him at a riverbank, threatening to jump. Hayeri pleads with him, but she cannot help because of her fear of water. Here, we see her flashback. Back in school, she had once attempted suicide, nearly drowning herself. Since then, she had fear from water. She calls out to Habek to save the man, but Habek is more interested in his food. Eventually, the man leaps into the river, leaving Hayeri screaming helplessly. At last, Habek went to save him on one condition, that Hayeri will hold his fried chicken, but in the chaos, Hayeri drops the food he had entrusted her with. Habek scolds her, saying she had one simple task and failed. He complains that the food was meant for Nam, and now how would he feed him? Even gods apparently suffer from tragic lunchbox problems. Touched by his odd innocence, Hayeri hugs him. Later, Hayeri departs, but eerie voices begin to follow her everywhere. She wonders if it is guilt for not helping Habek and Nam earlier. Troubled, she returns to Habek and attempts conversation. He tells her that from morning till night, he thinks only of her. She pulls her hand away, asking why he was thinking about her. With smug arrogance, Habek answers that he was wondering how someone could possibly be so stupid to say all this nonsense. Insulted, Hayeri storms off, though the strange voices continue to torment her. Seeking distraction, she attends her college reunion party, where all her classmates flaunt their wealth. One former classmate ridicules her, mocking her family and remarking that her father was so busy being a social activist that he neglected his own household. Hayeri endures silently until her parents' names are dragged into the insult. Then she finally snaps and delivers a sharp rebuttal, though inside she is deeply hurt. She leaves the party, but the classmate chases after her only for Habek to appear. He had visited her clinic earlier, learned she was at the party, and followed her. He then humiliated the girl because he is the master of this trait. After this, Habaek notices Hayari's torn dress and, without hesitation, drapes his blazer over her shoulders. Later, when she returns the blazer at his place, he demands why she didn't even say thank you. She brushes it off, but Habaek remains focused on acquiring a mobile phone, which he believes will help him locate Mura. When he finally buys one, he beams with childlike delight. As they walk together, Habaek speaks about his divine mission, and for once, Hayari doesn't lose her temper. Instead, she teases that if he is truly a god, he should be able to do anything. Habaek proudly replies, yes, he can. She then mischievously asks if he can give her money. He claims he can summon gold and silver with a snap of his fingers. Hayari challenges him to prove it. Habaek admits he can, but not right now because his powers are unavailable. Just then, Habaek spots Mura's image on a giant screen. Hayari insists Mura is merely an actress, but Habaek orders her to take him to her residence, promising that once she fulfills this duty as his servant, he will not demand more of her. Reluctantly, Hayari agrees and takes him to Mura's house. When Habaek confronts Mura, she denies recognizing him and has him thrown out. Hayari, acting on impulse, enters the house and sees bodyguards pushing Habaek around. She tries to help but is injured. Witnessing this, Habaek flies into a rage and retaliates against the guards. Mura, observing the chaos, slaps him and tells him to get out. Furious, Hayari lashes out at Mura, handing her clinic's card and sarcastically advising her to seek treatment, even offering her a discount too. Then she drags Habaek out. Outside, Habaek fumes that Hayari had ruined everything. After all, meeting Mura had been no easy task. Distressed, Hayari takes him to her friend, claiming this person can connect him with other gods. But it is soon revealed that her friend knows nothing. She was merely humoring Hayari. Habaek confronts Hayari, asking if she truly thinks he is lying about everything. Saddened, she walks away, though his words echo in her mind. Suddenly, she is kidnapped and dragged to the terrace of a tall building, from where she is thrown off. Nam happens to be nearby but cannot reach in time and calls Habaek to save her. Habaek saw from the window that Hayari is falling, and without a moment's hesitation, he leaps from the height where she was trapped, cutting through the air and catching her in his arms just in time. In that moment, his hidden powers begin to awaken, and he is able to save her, though Hayari, overwhelmed by what she witnesses, faints in shock. When she regains consciousness, she cannot believe that what she had seen only moments ago was real, and still shaken, she tries to drive home but fails to handle the car properly, so Habaek takes the wheel himself and drops her safely at her house, where Hayari, still in disbelief, asks him if he is truly a god or some kind of ghost. He says nothing and is about to leave, but Nam shoves Habaek inside her gate, reminding her that her family's tree of divine service stands rooted in her home. According to him, no one could be luckier than her, and so Hayari realizes that she cannot easily rid herself of Habaek. Hayari, despite her reluctance, is forced to let Habaek and Nam stay at her house. She instructs them to remain on the terrace, where there was a shabby little room. The next morning, while Nam and Hayari have breakfast, Habaek explains his mission that he has come to retrieve stones from the gods living in the human world. For the first time in 820 years, he admits, he has faced such a dire predicament. Hearing how old this god is, Hayari's eyes nearly pop out of her head. She continues to dwell on this strange confession and later asks her friend if he remembers anyone who might hold a grudge against her, or anyone she may have wronged. Her friend laughs and says there are too many to count. He reminds her of her childhood, when her father had brought numerous orphaned children into their home. Jealous and insecure, Hayari had always behaved rudely toward them, believing her father loved those children more than he loved her. Meanwhile, Nam offers Habaek some clothes, but Habaek detests them. He storms into Hayari's clinic demanding new attire, insisting that he refuses to appear before Mura, looking like a beggar. Hayari takes him shopping, but lacking the funds for luxury, she buys him cheap clothing instead. They later go out for lunch, where Mura inevitably becomes the topic of conversation. Hayari asks whether Habaek truly trusts Mura to help him. He declares with confidence that he does. Hayari warns him not to place blind trust in anyone, because betrayal causes pain. At this, Habaek bluntly asks if her own trust had been betrayed, which is why she attempted suicide. After all, as the water god, he already knows. His matter-of-fact tone leaves her speechless. As they walk away, Habaek notices a strange man whom he has seen lingering around Hayari's house more than once. Meanwhile, Mura reports Habaek's arrival to William, another god. On the other side, Shin expresses interest in Hayari's land and sends her a proposal to buy it. To his surprise, Hayari demands 5 times the market price. Shin smirks and says he is willing to pay 7. Shocked, Hayari refuses to sell at all. Later, Habaek meets Mura privately, She recognizes him but immediately points out that he has no powers. Habaek confides that he has come to collect the 3 stones in order to become king. He asks for her stone, but Mu-Ra refuses, scoffing that a powerless god could never rule any realm. Deeply hurt, Habaek asks what he should do now to gain her trust. Mu-Ra dismissively tells him to find some menial job. As he leaves, Habaek once again spots the mysterious man following Hyeri. Around the same time, Shin arrives to discuss the land deal, and Hyeri pulls him aside. They finalize the agreement, and she feels euphoric as now she will be able to leave this country. Habaek, meanwhile, spends his nights learning to read and write Korean. That evening, when Hyeri returns home late, haunted by memories of her near death on the terrace, she finds Habaek waiting outside her house. He proudly shows her his progress by writing both their names on her wall in Korean. Later, Habaek takes on tasks for Mu-Ra, even acting as her bodyguard, but she still refuses to give him the stone. After he departs, she calls William and says she can no longer handle this. He must take over. Stressed and weary, Habaek and Hyeri go to the beach, where they momentarily relax and enjoy themselves. Yet Habaek notices once again the man who has been shadowing Hyeri, and this time sees him tampering with her car brakes. Later, as Habaek drives the car, he realizes the brakes aren't working. In truth, he had sat behind the wheel deliberately, hoping the danger would restore his powers. Since the last time Hyeri was in peril, his abilities briefly returned. The sabotaged brakes threw them into crisis, and like he predicted, his power came back temporarily just to save Hyeri, but they failed him once again. The person who was responsible for this was a psychotic man who once rammed Hyeri's car and had filed an insurance claim. Now, he had orchestrated this too. Despite the chaos, Hyeri later thanks Habaek for saving her life twice, but Habaek is uninterested in gratitude. He demands instead a new phone, plenty of food, and fine clothes. Hyeri tries cooking but fails miserably, forcing them to survive on noodles. Habaek, however, begins watching a MasterChef program, quickly absorbing cooking skills. Soon he starts experimenting in the kitchen, and the results are astonishing as his dishes rival the cuisine of 5-star hotels. Hyeri, moved by his efforts, finally thanks him from the bottom of her heart. Who knew the path to kingship ran through reality TV cooking shows? After dinner, Hyeri said thank you to Habaek for saving her life. The next day, William called Habaek and invited him to meet. Nam advised and said that before going to meet him, he should first prepare himself. Habaek needed powers, but for that, they couldn't risk Hyeri's life again. Hyeri overheard all this and told Habaek, "How can a god be so selfish?" But Nam then explained to her that Habaek had only put her in danger because he was completely sure that he would be able to save her. Habaek was about to go meet a priest when Hyeri suddenly sat in his car. Showing him a bunch of bills, she told him, "Before going, pay off all these expenses." And she stayed with him the whole time. They reached William's house, but Hyeri fainted when she saw William, because he was the same boy who had given her that diamond ring back in college. So, when Hyeri regained consciousness for a moment and saw him, she fainted again. Meanwhile, William taunts Habaek for losing his powers, and Mu-Ra also refuses to hand over her stone until William agrees. To humiliate Habaek further, William mocks him in front of Hyeri, saying that Mu-Ra will never give her stone until he proves himself. Habaek, frustrated, carries Hyeri on his shoulder and leaves. When she regains consciousness, he warns her that William is a god who enjoys inflicting pain more than giving love, and she should never trust him. Still, Hyeri doesn't believe him completely. Later, Mu-Ra demands that before Habaek receives anything, he must bring William to her. The situation is complicated because Mu-Ra secretly likes Habaek, while William desires Mu-Ra and has already confessed his feelings. She has yet to respond, which only fuels his jealousy. William then discovers that Hyeri is the divine servant. He kidnaps her, seats her in his car, and brings her to a secluded spot where he reveals his powers. He recounts her troubled past, then hands her a drink, saying that if she makes Habaek drink it, he will give her a diamond ring and a great fortune. He assures her it would cause no harm. Habaek would merely forget about the divine stones for a while. Hyeri takes the glass but smashes it with her foot, declaring that Habaek's lack of powers does not mean he deserves to be deceived. Just then, Mu-Ra and William arrive. William challenges Habaek to prove his strength by saving Hyeri from a peril he himself orchestrates. He declares that only if Habaek successfully uses his powers to protect her will he even consider giving him the stone.